Hi guys, in today's video we are going to build a chat application. So Jake from Microflow has asked me to do a small screencast to showcase how to build a chat application, and he's even given me a to-do list of things which need to be implemented. So let's get started. So what I've done is I've already gone ahead and executed a Mix Phoenix new chat. So that has created a chat Phoenix application. Now let's cd into that, and if you open up the to-do list in our editor, get to do. Hmm. Okay, so let me move that here. And if I open up the editor here, these are the things which we're going to implement in this session, in this screencast. All right, so let's get started. Um, I've since we already have a Phoenix project, we can start a server, Mix Phoenix server to start the server, and let's start from the top. So we need, from this feature list, we need some kind of a lobby which is public to everyone, where anyone. So here's the user story. Dana is bored and she wants to chat with someone. She just enters the main chat room. So we want anyone to be able to join the main chat room and start talking with other folks who are in there. So uh, let's see. We need Okay, so for this, we need a page where the user can go. So we can use our home page as our main chat room page, or we can use a room slash lobby as the main chat room. So yeah, let's use that route. So to get that, let's quickly create a controller called room controller, and this guy is gonna manage all our rooms. So def module room controller, and since it's a controller, we need to have a use chat web controller uh, statement there. So now this guy's a controller, and we're going to have uh, a lobby. So well, yeah. So let's say we have a show action, which takes a connection and a params list, which matches the lobby room. So this is a special room which we have where anyone can join and start chatting with others. So when this happens, we want the user to see a list of messages, and so basically we want the messages to be shown and a text box to be shown. So what we're going to do is we'll render an HTML page which shows that. So render uh, the show page. So let's just render a show page. So for that we need two things. We need a view. Let's create a view called room view, and this is gonna have def module chat.room view, and since this is a view, it needs to have the chat.web view directive in there, and we need a template for the show view to render, and here we'll just say this is the lobby. So now with that done, let's go to our server browser and take a look at the room slash lobby. and it says there's no route found because we need to wire up the route. So let's open up the router, and we'll say get slash room slash IT should go to room controller, and the room controller's show action. So now if we go there, it says this is the lobby, and let's do some more cleanup. So I'm gonna, well, let's do that later. So for now it says this is the lobby, and what we want there is a pane where we can see the messages, and a text box beneath that which allows us to enter our messages. So to do that, let's see, I'll say we need a div, and with the ID messages, and we need a text area with the ID input, and so we'll make it a form control, and this should take this should make the text area take the whole width. So if you see that, that looks good, and I'm just gonna add some inline styles here. So just say messages, it's gonna have a minimum height of 300 pixels, background color of very light gray. So that looks good, and yeah, we have our we have the lobby, and finally I'm just gonna add a placeholder here. It says and type your message and hit enter. So that looks really nice. Now what I want, what we want the users to do is start sending messages to each other. So so whenever I type a message here, if I say hello there and hit enter, I want this message to be sent to all the connected users who are using who are signed into this chat application. So let's see how we can get that working. So Phoenix has this very nice concept of channels on top of sockets, on top of WebSockets, and they provide a nice bidirectional communication layer. So there is an Elixir component, and there is a JavaScript component which makes this very easy. So out of the box, you can start using WebSockets and send messages back and forth between the client and server. So let's see how to get that working. So the first thing we need to do is, as soon as the user opens this page, we need to open a WebSocket connection to the server. So for that, we'll have to use some JavaScript, and Phoenix already provides us with a sample on how to use sockets. It's present in the web static JS socket.js file. So let's open up the app.js and the socket.js, and if you see, so there is, we'll take a look at how branch works. Branch is something which comes with Phoenix, and we'll take a look at how that works. But for now, just suffice it to say that if we have this statement uncommented, import socket from socket, then it's gonna execute this JavaScript. So I'm just gonna delete everything from here and create a file. Well, let's have it there. Okay, for now I'm just gonna delete everything here and just say console.log socket code. So we'll just make sure that this is working. So if we have that import socket from socket, you see there is a log message there called socket code, which we just wrote. So it works, and we'll take a look at how this all works together with Phoenix in a minute. But for now, just know that by importing this module, we are executing whatever code we have here. So I'm gonna remove all the comments and look at the code we have here. Now the Phoenix, so the first line says import socket from Phoenix. Now this socket class comes from a Phoenix JavaScript, the Phoenix JavaScript code. So what it allows us to do is it allows us to connect to a WebSocket. So right here we are connecting to a WebSocket at path/socket, and we are passing this this information to that socket. And so this is just an initialization, and this is where we are actually making that connection. And as soon as we make the connection, it sends so this is where we establish a WebSocket connection. And over a WebSocket connection you can have many channels. So think of it this way. So you have one internet cable which allows you to open a YouTube video, your Gmail in a different tab, and so on and so forth. So all that data is going through your one internet cable, right, at the end of the day. So that's, think of channels and sockets like that. So you have one socket which is whose connection is established when you first open the page and do the socket connect, and then you can have multiple channels on top of a single socket. So these are all multiplexed on the same socket. So what we're doing on line number 8 is we are creating a channel with a topic and subtopic. So think of a topic as a route in your web framework. So remember how we said room lobby goes to the room controller show action in our routes. Similarly, we can configure where this topic, which channel this topic is managed by. So you'll see that in a minute. But think of this as a route in your controller. So it's analogous to that, but it's not exactly that. And so what we're doing here is we're creating a channel and we're joining there, and if everything is good, it's going to say joined this channel successfully, otherwise it's going to throw an error. So let's refresh this and see what happens. So we need to save this, and once we save this, if you look at my console, it says unable to join, and it says the reason is unmatched topic. And this is similar to your 404 not found. So what's happening is we're trying to open a connection to this topic, but we don't have that topic on the Elixir side on our server. So on our server, the entry point, like the entry point to your web application is your routes. Similarly, the entry point for our sockets, for our WebSocket layer, resides in lib chat endpoint, and actually this is in the user socket. So it's in the web channels user socket. So this is kind of the entry point. And if you go to the endpoint, you'll see this is where we've mounted the socket. We've said socket/socket, and that's how we are connecting to this. And this is controlled by the user socket. Okay, now the user socket says it doesn't have any channels, so we can define a channel now. We can say we have a channel called rooms star. So this is like a catch-all I mean, it's not, it's like a wildcard route. So it's like a wildcard topic. So if there is a topic, if the client tries to connect to rooms lobby or rooms haha or whatever, it's gonna be routed to the room channel. Okay, but we don't have a room channel yet, so we need to create that. So let's create a room channel, and a channel is a module which has a use Phoenix channel statement. So once we have that, this is a proper channel. And what's going to happen is if a user tries to connect to a topic called rooms colon whatever, it's going to be directed to the room channel. Now let's actually try and change this topic, and I'm going to say rooms colon lobby. Okay, and when we do that, we don't have anything in the room channel. So if we refresh this page to try to connect to our room channel, and it says unable to join, and it says join crashed. Now if you take a look at our logs, it says undefined function chat room channel join. So when you have a channel, you're supposed to define at least 2 callbacks. So one of them is the join method, which takes 3 arguments, and another is so another is handle in method, which takes 3 arguments too. So a join channel takes 3 arguments. One is the topic, and so this first guy is the topic. So I'm going to just say hardcode the topic name here, and the second argument is the message, which we are going to ignore here, and finally it gives us a socket. So this is the code which is first triggered, which is triggered first when you try to join a channel from the JavaScript side. So what you're supposed to do here is make sure that whoever is trying to connect to this channel has the proper authentication and authorization. So since we aren't worried about that, I'm just gonna say okay socket. So what we're saying here is we don't care. I mean, whoever is trying to connect, let them just connect. So if we refresh this, and actually let me comment this out. If we refresh this, it says joined successfully, right? So which means we have established a bidirectional connection at this point. Now, to go back to our JavaScript, what we really want is whenever the user sends a message, we want that message to go to all the other users who are logged into this room. So we first need to be able to send a message to the server, right? So to send a message, the channel has a method called push, which takes a type of message. So here we're just going to say this is a message, and it takes the body of the message. So we are going to send the JSON body, and we'll just say the body of the message is test message. Okay, so when the user when we push a message to the channel, it goes to the server, and if you look at the logs, we don't see anything wrong. So what actually happens is when a message gets sent to a channel, it gets sent to the handle in method of that channel. And this guy has a signature which takes the message type and the actual message payload, and finally the socket. And if you don't want to do anything with that message, you can just return a no reply socket tuple, and that should do it. So what we'll do here is we'll just put an inspect statement and check out the payload, right? So now let's refresh this page and take a look at our logs. If you look at our logs, we see a body test message, right? That's coming from our JavaScript code from right here. So that's good. We are able to take a message from the user. Now what we want is we want to send this message to all the other connected users. So the way you do that is by using a method called broadcast, and this sends a message of type whatever type you want. So the signature of this is it takes a socket and it takes the message type and it takes a payload. So I'm just gonna pass the payload as we get without changing anything, and this should be sent to all the connected users. So if you have 100 connections, it should send this out to all the 100 connected users. So let's test this out, and to actually test this, we should do something when we receive a message from the server, right? So what we'll do is we'll say when a channel gets a message of type message, what we want to do is take that message and log it to the console. So I'll say received message. So that looks good, and to actually test this out, we need two distinct browsers, and so I have two browsers here. So if I send a message from this top window, well, so if we, the way we are sending a message is on a page load, right? So when I load this page, you can see that the page at the bottom has a log message which says received this message. So we see that the message is going from the browser to the server and back to all the other connected browsers. So what we should really do here is take the message and add it to the messages div, right? Append it to the messages div. So what I'm going to do here is so we'll say messages div is document get element by ID, get element by ID, the ID of the element is messages, and what we're going to do is we'll say messages inner HTML. It's gonna be just a message body, and actually we'll put those in a pair of we'll wrap those in a div tag, and we need to interpolate this, right? So that looks good. Now if you see, the test message is actually shown here, and if I reload the bottom browser, it should be sending. Okay, so here there's a bug, so we should be actually appending to that. So if I refresh the bottom pane, it should keep sending the test message to all the other browsers, and it does. So we now have ability to send messages from one browser to all the other connected browsers. Now let's actually make this work. So what we need is when the user types something in the input and hits enter, we want we want that message to be sent to the others. So I'm gonna get this guy, and what we need is input dot on, what is it, add event listener, and we need a key up. So when the key is pressed and when the key up event is triggered, we want it to do something. And so this is, we need to do this only if the key pressed is enter. So what we'll do is we'll say if the key code is not equal to 13, which is the key code for enter, will return, right? So if it is not enter, we don't have anything to do. But if it is enter, we need to get the value from our input and push it to our channel. So we'll push it to our channel, and the value is gonna be input dot value. So get rid of this bogus message, and that looks good, right? So finally what we want to do is we want to reset the input value to an empty string. So that should take care of everything. So let's quickly refresh these two panes, and I'm gonna start sending messages. Hello, this is a test message. Awesome. So we are able to send messages from the top window to the bottom window, and if I send a message from the bottom one, it's being sent to the top window. So that's good. And so let's take a look at our to-do list and see how far we've come. So we're able to get to the lobby, and now we want, okay, so another thing is we don't know who sent what, right? I mean, we don't know the name of the guy who sent a message when we receive it. So we want even that. So to get that, let's see how we can fix that. So let's go to our JavaScript code. And come on, socket.js. So what we want is, as soon as the user opens a page for the first time, we want to capture the username, right? Because that's how it happens. When you open a chat client, you sign in, right? So that's what I want to happen here. So the way we can do that is we need to do it before we do anything else, right? So before we actually connect. So what I'm going to do here is define a username, and that's going to be empty for now. And what we need to do is we need to get the username, and one way to do it is by using the prompt function. So what we're doing here is we're just asking the user, what should we call you? And whatever this guy gives us, we can then send to our socket when we connect to it. So this guy is a username. So now that we have a way to do this, if we refresh this page, it should ask us what's your username. And if I say Khaja, then it knows that I'm Khaja, and it should. So another thing is it should be persisted across our communication. So the way we do that is, so a few things. Whatever params you send through a socket connect, when you create a socket and connect to it, those are sent to the socket. So the socket can then, the socket gets those params. So here if you see, the socket gets those params, and we can use assign to persist those, persist some information on the socket. So the way we do it using the assign function. So let's use that, and I'm gonna call this username, and the username is part of the params, and I'm gonna extract it like that. And so now our socket should have an assigns of name username, and we can use this further down in our channels. So in our channels we can now get to that by using socket assigns username. Okay, so that's good. And now what we can do is when we get the payload, we are getting what are we getting? We are getting a body, and that's all we are getting. So when we broadcast the message, we can send the body, and in addition to that, we can even send the username. Now the username can be extracted from the socket assigns like that. So now our message which is sent, which is broadcasted, also has a username. So let's refresh this page, and let's say Khaja, and if I send a message, this message is being sent, and whatever message we're getting here should have a username token too. So we actually need to use that and render it in our template. So let's do that. So I'm gonna prefix this with an @ and like Twitter does, and use it from the message like that. So now if I say Khaja, and in the window below say Muju, and if I enter a message here, it says Khaja sent this message, and if I enter it from below, then it says Muju sent. So now we have names, and one small problem is whenever we refresh the page, it forgets who we are, because it creates a new socket, and we're not I mean, we are asking for a username and we're not storing it anywhere. So what we can do is, as soon as we get the username, we can store it in the local storage, and I'll say store it in username, and if we find a username, we won't ask for a username. So here, as soon as the page is loaded, we'll try to get the username, and if the username is empty, right, so if the username is not defined, then we're gonna prompt this guy, ask for his username, and then store it, so that the next time he refreshes it, we remember who he is, because local storage is persisted across refreshes and across browser restarts and computer restarts, and it's local to the browser. So I'm going to define this once again. So say this guy is Muju and this guy is Khaja, and now when I refresh the page, it shouldn't ask me for my username, because it remembers who I am, right? So that's that. So let's take a look at our to-do list. So we've just finished the first feature, so I'm gonna stop here, and we'll look at the other features in the next video. So thanks for watching. Hope you had fun.